Hi everyone and welcome on the French Watch Collector. Today on the bench we have this beautiful Seiko watch, a Seiko Pogue. We'll talk about it about this watch, but this is a very important watch for me actually. This is a watch of one of my subscribers on my channel, from Courtney, and this is her dad watch. And unfortunately her dad passed away, so she wanted me to restore this beautiful Seiko watch. And what I'm gonna try to do is to restore it the best that I can. And obviously she wants to have this watch for the memory of her dad, and that's what we're gonna try to restore in this video. Yeah, and you see this watch is not in perfect shape. You see the crystal is quite scratched. Yeah, it's working, but yeah, it's not working very well. And obviously we're gonna try to do the best job that we can on this video and to fully restore this watch. So we saw first we had a quick look at if everything was working. It looks like everything is working. We see the watch is quite dirty, and I think his dad bought this watch. I will talk about this type of watch after as well. It's a very old watch. Yeah, it's a watch from the end of the 60s, beginning of the 70s, and he bought this watch around this time. I don't know when is the last service on this watch, and you see not a long time. I mean, it was not restored for a while actually. But we see what we can find inside, and we're gonna try to, like I said, to clean it, to restore it the best we can, to bring the memory back to Cornet from unfortunately her dad, which is not there anymore. So you see on the case back, we see the 6139, which is as the type of this Seiko. And again, this Seiko is obviously very important for Courtney, but it's as well a very important watch for the in a watch industry. You can see on the case back there is nothing written, and you can see inside this is an automatic chronograph, and this is we're gonna talk as well. This is a very important automatic chronograph, and our dad has very good choice as well at the time to buy this watch, because it's a very iconic automatic chronograph. And we see when we're gonna disassemble this watch, we found like a couple of issues on this watch as well to restore. And it took me a long time, and I'll talk about it a bit later. Actually, I started this video in end of 2022, beginning of 2023. And I was waiting for a tool we will see a bit later on for a long time, because it was something to restore on this watch. I didn't want to leave the watch fully and unrestored. And that's what we're gonna see during this restoration there. So now you see I'm disassembling the beginning of the watch, the automatic winding there, which is very special on this Seiko. And actually a negative point of this watch, of this type of watch, and this is why as well I think this type of caliber is still not there anymore. It's an automatic chronograph, but you cannot actually do a manual winding on the watch. It means that it can you can only wind the watch by just shaking the watch and shaking the rotor inside that we just removed, the automatic winding. You cannot rewind the watch or wind the watch with the crown. And yeah, this is something a bit annoying when you want to start a watch. If you have automatic watch, you will know, like when you don't wear a watch for a couple of days and the watch fully stop, obviously the first thing that you do, you will turn a crown, you will do a couple of turns to start the watch. And on this one actually you cannot, like I said, wind the watch manually, so you will have to wear it and shake it to have the automatic winding just start working and for your watch to start again. So that's something different compared to what we have today on our automatic watches. But yeah, again, this watch, and you will see now we have a beautiful dial. I love what is called the Pogue, the Pogue watch, this beautiful dial, this yellow sunburst effect on the dial. And now I'm removing the end, which is actually the dial is in very good shape, and the end as well, not in bad shape for the age. But you will see inside will be a couple of stuff that are not working very well and that we need to address. Just gonna remove the dial for now. And again, like I said, on this beautiful watch, it's a very important piece for Seiko. And at the end of the 60s, like in 69, it was a big war in the watch industry because actually the chronograph was existing already since a long time ago, but it was no automatic chronograph. It was that was not existing. So it was a big war between several watchmakers. Obviously Seiko being one. It was Zenith. It was as well other brands that went together, like for example, Tiger at the time, Breitling. They joined together to find a caliber or to create a caliber that could be a chronograph, an automatic chronograph. And yeah, obviously it was Seiko with this caliber. This is why this is a very important caliber and a very important watch. Because this is actually the first automatic chronograph from Seiko. It was Zenith, obviously, with the El Primero, which is still existing today. And it was Tiger with the caliber 11 that was used, for example, in Tiger Monaco to be famous, but as well a lot of other watch from Breitling and Tiger at the time. But this Seiko was, and obviously this war was the first one where we will come out. Obviously, it's not really clear because it was the first one that was created, the first one that was presented to the public, and the first one that was in store, let's say. And Seiko was one of the first one. I think, I don't remember exactly, but I think the El Primero was one of the first one that was presented to the public, like in a fair, for example, but not yet be available to be purchased in a shop. And I think the Seiko was the first one to be obviously first in Japan, but was the first one to be able to be purchased in a store. So yeah, like I said, that was one of very important watch for the history, and obviously which is still not existing today, this caliber, because I think one of the problem is that was not, and one, for example, if you take the El Primero, which is still today, and the El Primero is almost exactly the same caliber that was that came out in 69, 70. But yeah, like we know the El Primero, we have a manual winding as well on El Primero, and I guess that's why it's still there today. And you will see in this one, actually, there is a lot of difference with the El Primero, and we see a bit more when we disassemble this watch. So now you see I started to disassemble. Obviously on this watch, you will have like a lot of complication actually in this watch. You have the date and day for actually straight away from the beginning on his chronograph when it came out, he has a date and day. And you start to see underneath there, under this bridge, you will see a lot of mechanism from the chronograph, which is a very different design compared to the El Primero. And the Tiger as well at the time was a very different design because it was a micro rotor inside, not a normal big rotor like, for example, we have on the El Primero and this watch. And this one, what's the difference as well is what's called on the clutch, which where it's come and engage and disengage the chrono. Normally on most chronograph calibers, what you have, and you see like the wheel that I just removed there is broken, the minute wheel from the chronograph, and this is one of the stuff that I found during the disassembly. And like I said, on this chronograph, normally you will have what's called a lateral clutch, which is not the case on this, which is mainly on 90% of the chronograph or even more at the time. But what's called on this one is a vertical clutch, which is more complicated on the parts and on the design. And obviously you will have a lot of vertical clutch. You have a lot of advantages on the vertical clutch, and that's what you find on a lot of calibers today. For example, on a Rolex Daytona, you will have this type of clutch and a lot of different type of new chronograph, but at the time it was not so common. And obviously Seiko, straight away from the beginning, they came with this vertical clutch and not the lateral clutch on what you could find at the time on 99% of the Swiss chronograph calibers. So yeah, that's pretty clever at the time. And you see there on the barrel, I have a lot of play on the barrel, and that's a big issue that you have on this Seiko caliber from this era. They were very quick on the barrel post there. So we're gonna see what we can do to restore this part of the bat of this watch, because obviously you will see the amount of play that you have on the barrel there. It will rub against the part, and obviously will ruin the accuracy and the amplitude on the watch. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna see if we can adjust this issue there. Okay, we just remove the main plate there. And you can see that this is a chronograph wheel with what's called on top of it, there is a lot of parts. And this is the vertical clutch that I was talking about. And we see when we disassemble the watch, this is a very complicated and very clever design at the time. Yeah. Okay, we still have a couple of parts you see inside. We have a center wheel there with another bridge with jewel, you see. And yeah, which very nice. We have a lot of jewels actually on this watch, which is the case for the center wheel there. And now we're just gonna remove and disassemble the keyless work on this side. Pretty good as well on the parts, and you will see a lot of the springs on this watch as well are integrated in one part, which is very easy to assemble and very, I guess, a lot more. Easier to be manufactured as well. You, instead of doing 2 or 3 parts, you would do everything in one part. And this is the case you see there with the yoke, which is everything integrated with the big arm on top, which is acting as a spring in one part there. I'm gonna remove the setting lever there. And that's it. We're just gonna remove the winding stem and the last few parts. There we go. Perfect. And like I said, I did this video a long time ago, like I said, end of 22, beginning of 23. And you will see, like, if you compare to my video right now, I changed a lot of stuff in my way as well of assembling and maintaining the watch. For example, like now I'm just doing do a pre-cleaning on the jewels with a piece of peg wood that was called pegging there. And now you see I will do it like differently in a solution with a brush. I found it easier, and I can do a pre-cleaning if you want, a bit more efficient on the watch, and like better than what I was doing before. You see as well I'm using a different type of metal. You see, for example, my tweezers, which doesn't change a lot, but I will use a different type, or today I use a different type of tweezer, which I found easier to work with. And yeah, obviously I have a lot more tools now, a lot more knowledge as well when I work on the caliber. And you see, that's what's funny when I was putting the video together as well, to see myself and say, like, yeah, I change a lot of stuff. And the more I put the video together as well, the more I share it with you, the more I improve myself as well, and a lot of people as well. And if you want, in the comments, I use a lot of the comments from people saying, oh, you should do it like this. What do you think? Like this part of the mechanism, why you do it like this? And it's true, like the people, and that's the strength as well of YouTube to share knowledge together. And that helped me a lot. And I hope as well this video help a lot of people that's watching my video to see what I do, what I don't do, or what I do wrong as well when I work on the watch. And that's the purpose of this video that I do since the beginning, just to share my knowledge, but as well to absorb a lot of knowledge from you guys. So if you want to share a lot of stuff in the comments, don't hesitate, and it will help me, but as well all the people that watch these videos. Okay, so now I just finished, you see, to pre-clean the parts on the with my piece of pegwood there, on cleaning the jewels, just to remove like the dried up oil and grease on the parts. Gonna disassemble the barrel assembly, and you will see inside it is very, very dirty. Look at the grease and the oil which is inside there. Being an automatic watch, obviously, like the mainspring inside will never stop winding because it's an automatic. So you will need some special grease that you don't use on a manual watch, but that's a lot of grease inside there. So obviously we're gonna clean that, and we're gonna re-grease if we want, and put some brand new products inside this mainspring, but obviously not as much. That's way too much for my liking. Okay, so now we're gonna put, you see, all the parts inside a basket there, and on this chronograph it's actually quite a lot of parts, so try to keep those parts in family so it will be easier to clean and reassemble the watch later on. And now all these parts will go inside my cleaning machine, and we'll be able to have some brand new clean parts after the cleaning. Okay, so during the cleaning, I would like to thank my patron. Actually, Cornet, which I'm restoring watch now from a dad, is one of my patron. And I did a couple of change, and I'm gonna increase my patron, my amount of stuff that I'm gonna put on Patreon. I'm gonna put a lot more stuff on Patreon than what I'm doing today. So first, I would like to thank my existing patrons which are supporting me, and you will see on my Patreon I will put a lot more content which is specifically dedicated to Patreon. For example, I will ask you a lot of questions if you want me to work on this watch or on this one, if you want me to restore this watch this type or this way. Obviously, I will put some video, for example, for the disassembly, like you will not see before my YouTube video. So I will put a lot more stuff on my Patreon. As well, I will put I have some merchandise on my Patreon, for example, some stickers. If you subscribe to my Patreon, you will receive some stickers from my patrons. So yeah, I will put a lot of stuff on my Patreon, and I will be involved a lot more on my Patreon, which is you will not see obviously on my YouTube because it will be purely on my Patreon. So if you want to go there, and actually Patreon is just to increase your support to my channel, because it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to put this video together. So if you want to go there as well and support my channel, I will put more content for the people as well that will support my channel on Patreon there. So I will put a link down below, and you will be able to see a lot more stuff on my Patreon. Okay, so you see on the barrel assembly there, I just put a brand new spring. I just put a tiny bit more grease, not too much. Obviously, it was way too much when we disassembled the barrel. And you see, after a clean as well, the barrel is in perfect condition. All the grease and all the all the gunk that was inside is fully gone. And that's what we want when we reassemble this watch. Just putting some oil there, and you will see as well, I just put the oil a different way than what I do right now. Obviously right now I use a lot more some automatic oiler. That was not the case before, and I just put the oil or the type of oil at the same place, but just do it a different way, a bit more efficient, a bit more better, I think, today compared to before. And what we're gonna do now, we're gonna do an epilem treatment on some of the parts. Again, this epilem treatment will help for the oil that I'm gonna put later, or the grease, for example, on a pallet jewels, to stay on the surface, not to spread on the surface. So that's what the epilem is gonna do, the treatment I'm gonna do on a part there. And now I'm just removing the epilem on a pivot point. You see on a couple of pivot point there. And now again, I'm just gonna put, you see, with my automatic oiler there, a drop of 9010, which is a very thin oil on the top of the jewel there, on the center of the jewel. And obviously after back, we're gonna just put the chaton just on top of it. There. Perfect. And right now we'll have the drop of oil in between the two jewels there. We're just going to do the same thing on the other side. And look at the size of the jewels again compared to my fingers. They are so small. They are obviously, when you see under a microscope, under the micro lens there of the camera, it looks much bigger, but it's very, very small. And now these jewels go, you see, on a balance assembly, on a balance staff there. And the oil that we just put will lubricate there the balance staff on both sides, obviously, of the balance. And now we just need to put this shock setting spring on top. And you see it's a different type of shock of spring more on top of it. You have to rotate it and to put each, you see a spoke there one by one. And you see that go underneath there and we rotate it. Yeah, perfect. Just going to do the same thing on the other side as well. On the dial side of the balance assembly. Just going to put back here this spring, which is obviously a bit more tricky to put in position compared to what we have on a Swiss watch. But yeah, which is not bad actually. You see, so you rotate and you wait to align the third one there. You will have a small hole here just to go underneath, and you rotate. Here we go, and you will have 3 spokes underneath there. And now we're just checking if the balance assembly just rotating is free of friction, and it looks good actually. And now that we did the barrel and the balance assembly, we're gonna start to reassemble the watch, starting, you see there, by the keyless work. And actually on this Seiko caliber, you will find a lot of information on internet, and actually you will find the what's called the data sheets from this caliber, and you will find all the information on how to disassemble it, how to reassemble it, each single pipe, which part you need to put first, the second one, the third one, and so on, and as well the oil and grease, which type of oil and grease you need to put and where, which is not the case on all the caliber. You cannot find this information on all the caliber on internet, but actually on this Seiko caliber, it's pretty easy to find this information. And actually, if you work on one of them, you need to have this information. It's always better that you have the manufacturer of the caliber to tell you how to disassemble it, which oil to use and where, compared to, let's say, the common knowledge, because on some of the vintage watch you will not have this type of this information. So obviously you will have some general rules which are more or less the same on all the watches, but it's always better to have the information from the watchmaker to tell you exactly which oil and how to disassemble and reassemble a caliber. Okay, so you see, for example, on these Seikos, they ask you to start by the keyless work. So this is what I'm getting right now, just reassembling the keyless work with, you see a lot of oil and grease that we put on the keyless work there. Perfect, and you see there if the keyless work is working. Yeah, perfect. And now we're gonna reassemble the rest of the train of wheel and obviously all the parts which is on his chronograph. And you will see as well it's a tiny bit different on this Seiko compared to other chronograph. There is a lot more parts from, let's say, the timekeeping and the chronograph which are integrated in one, which is not the case, for example, in El Primero or, like, let's say, Swiss chronograph. Because obviously the complication, which is a chronograph in this case, most of the caliber you will have all the parts let's say the basic parts give you the time, the train of wheel, the barrel, the balance assembly, like all these parts give you time. And after, on top of it, you will have the complication, which is the chronograph, the date, the day, for example, the automatic parts in this case. And normally they go on top of the, let's say, the timekeeping element of the caliber. So normally you can assemble the watch, make it run for to keep the time, to make sure everything run perfectly. And after you assemble, and you see like there is way too much pay there on a barrel, and that's what we're gonna do right now. And after, like I said, you do the chronograph on top of it. But on this watch you cannot. The chronograph is integrated in the timekeeping. You will see when we're gonna reassemble. So there I'm using my staking set just to close the hole, because you see it was way too much play there on a barrel assembly. So I'm just using my staking stack, sorry, just to reduce the hole a tiny bit. And you will see now when I put it there, I cannot put it back on the barrel assembly. So it's been the hole reduced too much, which is normal. And now what we're gonna do, we're gonna use what's called a smoothing brush, just to open it a tiny bit, the hole, step by step. And we're gonna put it back, you will see later on a barrel. And like that, we know that it will fit just perfectly the pivot point there of the barrel. And you will see now, when we put the bridge in position, just need to align all the parts, and you see now, and you see there is not too much, there is not play anymore. The part is still running, but the parts is there is not too much play on the parts. That's what we wanted. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, we reduce the issue on the barrel assembly there, and now we're gonna reassemble the rest of the parts. You see there we have the train of wheel that we just put in position there, and you see the center wheel where we have the chronograph wheel, again with the vertical clutch that we just discussed at the beginning. Just need to press on it just to be able to have a drop of oil under the spring there. And this wheel you see there, which is a center wheel from the chronograph, which is integrated straight away in a train of wheel. And like I said, you see most of the time the chronograph of the second wheel is not integrated directly in a train of wheel, it's separately, but you see there the chronograph wheel is integrated in the chronograph. So now you see, if I want to be able to check the timekeeping and to put the balance assembly, first I need to reassemble the chronograph fully to be able to have the balance the balance assembly to be running. So you see now that all the wheels are in position, gonna secure it with the screw there. Perfect. Just putting some oil. You see there, this is the column wheel from the chronograph. So this is a column wheel chronograph, like the El Primero, which is basically the brain of the chronograph. This wheel, you will see you have a lot of teeth and parts on top of it. When you will push a pusher, this wheel will turn, and this will give the information to all the other parts in the chronograph to start and reset the chronograph. So this is what I call the brain of the chronograph, this column wheel. This is a very important part of the chronograph. Just putting there, you will see a spring there, the click spring in position. Just you see oiling there all the pivot point, because obviously again we want to have the friction, which is reduced to a minimum. So that's why we don't want to have too much play between the parts, because we don't want them to touch to each other. And we want to have like all the parts which are metal against the jewels, to everything to be lubricated, like with the minimum amount of friction on the parts. And again, you see there as well, like I said, on the brain of the chronograph, on a column wheel, we're gonna grease all these parts, because obviously after, when we're gonna push the pushers, this wheel will turn. So we want it to run like the smoothest way when you push the pushers on your chronograph. And here we have like the parts of the clutch that will come on the vertical clutch. You will see to engage and disengage the start or the stop of the chronograph. Again, this is a very, very different type of design on the chronograph, and very clever design as well on the chronograph. Much more integrated in the chronograph, and that's let's say the positive of the vertical clutch. Obviously, on a vertical, you will have a lot more parts. You will have the transmission of the information, which is a lot less direct to the second end of the chronograph. And that's why if you have today modern and high quality, let's say, chronograph, you will have vertical clutch and not a lateral clutch. But after, the lateral clutch, for example, are a lot more beautiful. Where if you have on a case back, for example, the lateral clutch are a lot more beautiful than a vertical clutch. Okay, so we are putting a lot of springs there. We keep the tension inside the chronograph. This is a minute wheel. You remember that was broken when we disassembled the parts. I just got a brand new one. And there you see I'm gonna oil what's called the cam shape there, the heart shape from the cam. This is to reset the chronograph. This is a hammer, what's called a hammer, like if you are hitting on something. Basically, this part is gonna hit the cam and put it to the 0 position every time when you do a reset on your chronograph. That's the job of the hammer, to come and hit the wheels on the clutch and to do the reset to the 0 position from your chronograph. And you see again, I'm gonna oil, you see there, the extremity there of the hammer that will come and hit the cam on the chronograph. Just put the tension there with the spring on the hammer. Pretty tricky on the spring there from this Seiko. You see, there you go. Now I just find this position. Always need to be careful when you work on this spring to maintain them in position, because with the tweezer, if it goes away, the spring will jump and you will spend hours looking for the spring. So that's why you need to be very careful just to hold it on one side and put it on position with your tweezer. And now we put another bridge on top of it. You see, with most of the parts from the chronograph, but as well, like I said, the center wheel, which is integrated directly in a train of wheel. So just need to align each single wheel there in their pivot point. So very gently go in position. Just push it, and you see now I start to see the train of wheel which is turning. And we're gonna lock it in position with some screws when it's in the right position there. Perfect. Okay, so we have and now we have another spring there that come on a hammer. Just gonna oil, you see the center wheel there. That's a wheel from the chronograph as well. We need to grease as well this spring there. And now we can focus on the pallet fork and the balance. We're gonna put them in position. Just put, you see the pallet fork, yeah, we're just gonna secure it now with the tiny screw there. And obviously soon we'll be able to put the balance assembly and to see if the caliber want to start again. Just need to secure now the screws. Just checking there with a bit of power, and we see the pallet fork is clicking, so it means the power is coming to the pallet fork. This is a very good indication that the caliber, the power actually is coming to the caliber, so that's a very good news. And now I can place back. Obviously, I already oiled the pallet fork and the jewels, and now we can place the balance assembly to see if the caliber want to start. It's always tricky on this Seiko because the bridge obviously has a different shape, so you need to very gently put it in position. Align it obviously on the jewels. Remember that we just oiled already at the beginning of the disassembly. And now we've got gently, very gently to put it in position. Because you don't want to damage the air spring there or the pivot point there on a balance staff. It's almost there, and you see now. Just try to. Now it looks like it's almost in position, and you see if I do a quick impulse there on the balance. Yes, perfect. Just gonna secure it right now with the screws, and you see the caliber which start running faster and faster, obviously because we have the oil and the grease that need to settle, obviously, when you reassemble a watch. But unfortunately, I was not happy with the result I got. And this is what the problem. This tool that I stop is on my table there. I waited for more than a year to get this tool from Bergeon, which is a very special tool, actually, a very expensive tool. You can do a lot of things with this tool. Obviously, you can put some jewels, adjust the jewels on a watch. You can tighten, for example, the hands on the dial if they are too loose. And on the other, you can do some reaming, what's called some reaming as well. It's what I'm doing right now. You will have some reamer, and what you do is you can increase and gonna you see remove some metal on the part there on the bridge with a reamer to increase the size of the hole. And basically, what I want to do now is because the friction was still not good on a barrel assembly, and this is a big issue on this Seiko. And one of the solutions that they did later on, instead of being metal against metal, they put some brand new rubies there on the barrel assembly. And the way to do it actually on the bridge there is to increase the size of the hole there, just to be able to put a ruby. And after you can have you can put obviously the pivot point of the barrel inside the ruby. And the ruby is much harder than metal, so it will stay there for a long time. And you see now I just increase the size of the oil there. I'm just using a tool just to do a nice chamfer, which is a 95 degree angle there on the entrance of the hole. And you see now this is this type of ruby, this new ruby that they put on a Seiko. You see now that I increase the size of the hole, I will be able to put this ruby in position. All the rubies are friction mounted, so I'm gonna again use this tool that I just bought just to press the ruby in position. Okay, and you will see now with my tool there, I'm just gonna come and just press the ruby in position. There we go. And the second one, which is on you have another ruby to put on the bridge as well. You see now, on the bridge, originally you have a bushing, which is basically the same thing as a jewel, this pink part there, but in metal. And obviously the metal is a lot softer than a jewel. So that's why we're gonna replace the bush, the metal bush, which is the original one, by a jewel there in ruby. And the rubies are very, very, very hard. They are very close to be to a diamond in terms of hardness on the jewel. So that's why it will never wear. And what you have to do after, obviously, you will have to adjust. To do this, I have to disassemble the caliber one more time, and to reassemble it again with the jewel there on the barrel, and you will see the result at the end. I was a lot more happy with the result at the end, and that's why I didn't want. This is a very important watch for my patron, and I want, and obviously a very important watch for her, for her dad. So I wanted to have the perfect result on his watch. So yeah, and unfortunately, and I don't know if there is a watchmaker there, but some of the tools from Bergen are very, very hard and very, very long to get. So yeah, and it's true. I waited more than a year to get this tool. Yeah, it was unbelievable. Okay, and you see there, I just put a bit of oil on the jewels from the bar assembly, and obviously now I'm just going to use my automatic oiler on putting some oil there on the rubies there on the jewels, and now we can reassemble we're gonna reassemble the dial side with obviously the date and day on this caliber. So I'm gonna put back all the parts to drive and run and the date and day on this caliber. And you will see again, this is a different type of design, and that's what I like as well about Seiko. And obviously a lot of parts and a lot of calibers are made in Switzerland, and a lot of calibers are very similar to one, even if it's not the same companies that make this. For example, if you take a Rolex and an Omega, it's not the same caliber, but a lot of stuff are from the ideas are very similar. But this part from Japan, obviously, is far away from Switzerland. They have a very different philosophy, a very different engineering in their watch, and I found that very interesting actually. Like in a Seiko, they have stuff which are obviously today, like you can find as well some of the stuff that they used. For example, the automatic winding on this watch is very clever, and some of the Switch watch today use more or less the same type of engineering on their automatic system from their watch. But yeah, that's what I found very, very interesting in watches. Obviously, watches from far away, or for example, if you take some old American pocket watch, are very different to the Switch pocket watch. And obviously, like the history came from different place, so a different history, and the engineering behind is different as well, and this is very interesting. Okay, so now I put the calendar. You see, I just put the calendar ring and the calendar system, which I cover right now with a plate on top of it, with 4 screws on this plate there, which is a lot of screws for a plate there. Okay, just put it in position here. And the last one, I told you, has a lot of screws on this plate, but obviously if there is always a reason why they put 4 screws on this plate. Just gonna grease, you see there, the part that do the jumper for the date. Just checking if the date is, and you see on the Seiko as well, it's a very different if you want, you have as well a quick set date and a quick set day on this caliber. And you saw me how it's done. To do the quick set date and quick set day, you have to push on a pusher. Obviously, on a Swiss, it's different. You will have to turn to the second or third position, depending on the caliber, and you will have to turn the crown to be able to adjust the date quickly. This one is a different way. You have to push on it. You don't have to pull the crown. Just push, poof, poof, poof. Let's say a short push, you will change the date, and a long push, you will change the day. So this is a very clever design. Okay, so now we're gonna focus on the case. You see the case, it was not in very good shape. I don't want to, and that was as well with the owner of this watch, just for the memory as well of our diet. The point is not to do a brand new Seiko again. So we're gonna not do a full restoration on the watch with polishing and stuff like that. First, we're gonna do a full clean. We're gonna change a couple of parts as well. We saw the crystal is it's pretty bad, like in terms of scratches on it. So we're gonna put a brand new crystal on it. You will see this ring which is inside that can be turned. It's like a timer as well. Like for example, it's if you want, it's an inside bezel on the watch, which is very clever. Again, a lot. I said, like on the Seiko, they were like from 1969. A lot of stuff in one watch, and today this watch, to me, they are not that expensive compared to what you have inside the watch. Is like if you want to have a Swiss watch from the same era with this amount of stuff inside the watch, like it would be like time 10 or time 100 for the price of a watch, for sure. To have an automatic chronograph, date, with bezel, with quick set day. I mean, you can check, like if you look for for example, if you take an El Primero, which has a lot less function on the watch from the same era, is 10 times more expensive if you want to have a Zenith El Primero with automatic chronograph from this era, for sure, even more. So yeah, and you don't have a date. You don't have a quick set the same way you have a quick set date, the automatic waning, the chronograph with vertical clutch and stuff like that. Obviously, crazy watch from this era, I found. So we did a quick clean, and you will see now we're gonna reassemble, and we saw like this inner rings actually was broken. It's plastic, and inside you will have obviously some teeth inside this plastic part just to be able to rotate, and some of the teeth inside are they are broken with the plastic. So I just put a brand new one inside, and you see we put some brand new gasket as well on this watch, because we saw the gasket were very like almost like plastic on the watch. They were so old that they were not doing their job anymore. So we just put some, and you see we'll have the first one there, which is on a crystal. We just put this brand new crystal on top of it there, like I said. And I'm just gonna use there, you see my Orotech press. If you wanna, I'll put a link down below as well for some of the tools that I use on, obviously not all the tools that I use on this video, but if you have some question on the tool that I use, don't hesitate to put some comment. Again, I will be happy to answer your questions on if you have anything on the tool that I'm using. Okay, so now I just put the crystal there. I'm just using another tool just to press the bezel that goes around the crystal there. But this bezel there on the watch on the outside is you cannot turn it. The turning, like I said, is this plastic part inside. And now we're gonna focus on this beautiful. Like look at the dial and the quality of the dial on this watch. Wonderful. Like this sunburst, this yellow. Obviously, this watch you will have as well different type from this era. I found personally the yellow one being the best one. You will have some blue one, you will have some black one, you will have some gray one as well. Different type, still 6139, but different type of dial on it. This yellow, I found them beautiful. Beautiful. This type of sunburst that you have on a dial, amazing. Okay, I just put the hand there and just checking the date. If we should see a jump close to midnight, I like to have it between 5 before, like, yeah, it just jumped 2 minutes before midnight, so that's perfect. And now we're gonna put the minute hand from the chronograph. So obviously you will have the minute hand on this sub counter there from the chronograph. And obviously later on, I'm going to put the second hand from the chronograph. One negative things on this watch actually compared to the Swiss watch, for example, if you take an El Primero, on El Primero you will have a sub counter with the second running for the time, not from the chronograph, for the time. So you will have always, let's say, a hand which is running. On this watch actually, you don't have a hand which is running. Obviously we'll have the minute hand, but if you want to know your watch if it's running or not, you will have to start the chronograph to know if it's running or not. You will not have a second hand from the time on this watch, which I like personally to have. I like to have a hand which is, or second hand, which is always running on your watch. For example, personally, I don't like a two-hand watch, which is hour and minute only. I like to have a second hand which is running, which is like central hand or on a sub counter. On this watch, you don't have this. You don't have a sub counter. Like for example, most of the chronograph, Swiss chronograph, you will always have a sub counter with a second hand which is always running. I'm just, you see, like just blowing or vacuuming there all the dust on the dial and on the case, just to make sure. Then we're gonna put the case back on top of the dial, that we just don't trap any dial, any dust on the dial there. Just gonna turn it and just put the setting lever, just more the winding stem inside. And I just need to push there the setting lever I was just talking about in position. And you see the pusher there, I just kept in position with this ring around. So I just need to push on the pushers, and this ring will keep the pusher not from going out of the case. So it's a bit tricky to do, but not too complicated. You just need to push on both pusher, press on the ring, and the ring will keep the pusher inside the case there. Perfect. Obviously, you don't see on the video, but I just put back as well the automatic winding on the case. And I will just put the watch for a day or two on automatic winding, just to make sure everything is working. Being an automatic watch and without a manual winding, it's always good to put it on an automatic winder, just to make sure the automatic winding will work. And you will see after which type of result that we can get on this watch on the time grafter after a couple of days. So you will see I will leave it for a couple of days. First, I will demagnetize the watch, but before we see the result on the time grapher, I would like to tell you that I have my own website. So for example, like Cornet, if you want to contact me to restore your watch, I would be very happy to restore your watch. So I will put a link down below on my website and on the top right corner. I have some of the watches as well that I restored in this channel that are for sale. Actually, a lot of you guys, I watch my video, bought some of my watches as well. And thank you so much for it. It's so nice to work on watches and to be able to give them to one of my watcher on my channel. And look at the result on a time grapher. Obviously, I will finish to tweak this watch. The amplitude, which is much lower than a Switch watch, which is normal. If I don't adjust the bit error there. Actually, the watch is running very well at normally it's around 220. We thought we was at 214. So this watch, and you check now, I'm just checking the chronograph, the date, the day, if everything is working. And I'm very happy to have sent back this watch to Courtney, and obviously for the memory on that. This is, and that's why I do this job as well. That's why I love to work on watches, obviously because I love watches, but I love, because the watch, to a lot of people and to myself as well, they bring a lot of memory, and I'm very happy to have a watch that was not working very well, that will work again. And Courtney will have, for example, this watch for their entire life, that will remember a day that was wearing this watch. And you see there this watch, and this is as well a watch is just to give time, or for a chronograph it will tell you that the time is passing as well much faster. And this is very important to take care of your family and all the memories from your family as well. So thank you. I hope you like this video, and I see you next time for my next video. Bye bye.